If I was to provide for you a particular topic for this particular preachment on today, the topic would be rooted hope. Rooted hope. Can someone say rooted hope? Church, graduates, all who are students here. Can our graduates just raise your hand real quick? Graduates, where are you? And all of the students who are here, who are the students that are here? If you're a student, go ahead and raise your hand. Go ahead. Yeah, it was my hope that every hand in the house would be raised, because the truth is we are all students, and you might not be humble enough to recognize that, but we're still all growing and learning. It's okay, you'll catch it later. And as the church, as graduates, and all of us who are students, there is an African proverb I want to open up with. I want to share this particular proverb with you. It says, smooth seas do not make a skillful sailor. Smooth seas do not make a skillful sailor. If I was to translate that, help you out a little bit, in other words, it's telling us you don't learn how to navigate storms in still waters. In other words, you don't learn how strong you are until you're in a season where you need some strength. If you're in an easy season, that's not the season where you're going to learn how strong you are. You don't learn how to pray when every door is already opening. No, you learn how to pray when every door you try to open is locked. And you tried to open it, and you tried to kick it in, and it wouldn't open. And you finally figured out that the God that you serve is already prepared to open the doors that God has for you and close the doors that God does not have for you. And so sometimes when we come across the door, the way in which we cultivate our strength and our awareness in who we are is remembering that God can open doors that no man can shut, and he can shut doors that no man can open. This particular African proverb says, smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. It is saying that you don't learn how to trust God, in other words, when every plan goes your way. No, that's not when you learn that. You learn it when every plan you have goes sideways, when your plans no longer work, when your plans can no longer stand. That's when you begin to cultivate the grit and understand, now, wait a minute, this plan that I have is not working the way I thought it would. There must be another plan for my life. And then you begin to think on David. Oh, I need to trust in the Lord. David said, some trust in chariots, others trust in horses, but I choose to trust in the name of the Lord. You don't learn how to trust God until you need God to help you figure out a plan that you can't quite get through. You don't learn how to fight when nobody's pushing back on you. We call that a bully. You learn how to fight when your back is up against a wall. Most of us learn how to fight, how to weather a thing when we are backed into a corner. And as a believer, what our fight looks like is doing what Moses said. He said, don't be afraid, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. The Bible also says that the Lord will fight your battles, that the Lord is already making intercession for you. And we cannot learn how to fight and what it means for us to stand instead of cower down in something until we're in a situation when we're cornered and we have no other resolve but to push back. And our pushback does not look like what the world's pushback look like. Our pushback is countercultural. We don't come out putting our hands up. We don't go get crazy guns doing crazy things. No, we stand on the promises of God, and we declare that while the enemy comes in like a flood, the Lord will lift a standard against it. That's how we fight. David said, I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from all of my fears. Yeah, you don't learn who your real friends are when everybody's clapping and cheering for you. That's not when you learn that. You don't learn you have real friends when everybody's applauding you and not telling you no, and everyone around you's giving you a yes. No, you begin to understand what it means to roll with a friend when life begins to deal with some adversities in your life, when you begin to have some ebbs and flows, when you need a real secret kept, when you need somebody to show up when you have nothing to show up with. That's when you really need a friend. And that's when we figure out who our real friends are. Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend loves at all times. A brother is born for a time of adversity. This is what we've come to know. You learn who you are in the shadows of your life. You learn in your disappointment. You learn when the fight feels fixed and it looks like you're not going to win. That's where you learn. Smooth seas don't make skillful sailors. Storms do. Smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. Waves do. Smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. Pressure does. And so today, it's a beautiful day, not just because of caps and gowns and walking down this aisle, but because we get to look back at everything God has already brought this class through, the class of 2026. And when I look at you, I hear that proverb again, smooth seas did not make skillful sailors. We're looking at some skillful sailors right here. If you think that Denise has the only one with the story that she can tell, every single person sitting on this pew has a story. You know, when I was growing up, they didn't think kids had problems. They didn't think that we had it tough. They said as long as you got a roof over your head and food in your mouth, you shouldn't be pouting about anything. But the truth is, we've come to learn that children have a lot of problems. And many of the problems that the children have is the environment that they're growing up in. I wish I had a church right there. Of course children have problems. And so on today, some of you have already had your celebration dinners. I get it. Your families and friends have taken you to your favorite restaurants. You done been to Cheesecake Factory and Caesars 52. And some of y'all got real fancy and wound up at Eddie V's down the street over the market fair. You're not like me. I went over my auntie's house for my graduation. Yeah, where she poured out some pots and pans on the stove. And we went to Auntie's house, and we all piled up in there. We didn't have a place to sit. We had to stand and eat. But we took a plate home. The food was so good, right? We even packed up a plate to take home. But here we are. You're wearing your honor cords, your medals, your honor roll certificates are in your hand. They are tangible receipts of your commitment to intellectual excellence and discipline. And in the middle of all that beautiful noise, the selfies, the music, the laughter, the group chat blow-ups, in the background of all of that, there is another sound. Stay with me. We're out of here. Do you know what that sound is? Do you want to know what that sound is, students, that you hear? It is the sound of quiet prayers from your parents. It is the sound of quiet prayers from your father, from your mother. It is the quiet prayers of your godmother, your auntie, your uncle. It's the quiet prayers of your Christian education teacher who just released you to go back upstairs into the sanctuary. It is the quiet prayers of your village. These are folk who are praying over you for this next chapter in your life. And I want to tell you that they're not praying because they doubt your brilliance in this next chapter. They know you're brilliant. They are not praying in the background of your life because they're concerned about your ability to commit to your study. They've watched you grind. They are not praying in the background of the noise because they're concerned about your capability. They know that you are more than capable. No, these are not the things that they are concerned about. They are praying because they have a different concern. They are concerned about where you have to apply yourself, where you must study new material, where you must reach your goals, where you are called to be your best. They are concerned about our present day landscape, people, about the corrupt climate, the chaos, the unkindness that feels unbearable and unbeatable. They are concerned about the kind of world you have to learn and work and try to buy a first car and try to get a house and try to navigate tuition. And they are concerned. They're concerned about your safety in school, about protecting your mind while you're mining the internet for data. They're concerned about AI and augmented realities and its implications on black brilliance. They are concerned. They're concerned about the uncommon challenges you have to face, the extra hurdles you have to jump, the storms you'll have to sail in. That's the tension we're holding today. Real joy for what you've accomplished and real honesty about what you're walking into. We're sending our children, our teenagers, our young adults, anyone that's in school, out into a world that is not calm waters. We're sending you into a climate where democracy feels fragile, where voting rights are under attack again, where black history is under siege and under erasure, where gun violence has been normalized. I wish I had a church this morning. We are telling you to go out to a world where women's body and the LGBTQ community lives are under assault. We're asking you to go out to a world where the cost of living is high and your future feels uncertain. We live in a culture where people with money, microphones, and power feel entitled to put their names over other people's labor. We are going out into this kind of world. We got folk up there in the White House who have the audacity to do things like write their name over somebody else's pain, over somebody else's history. Yes, I'm talking about the unauthorized, untamed, uninformed, dysregulated, narcissistic number 47. Yes, I am. I'm standing flat foot and I am saying it. We like to say the opposite of this of love is hate, but the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is domination. And we're sending our children out into a culture filled with domination, oppression. It's when systems decide that your body and your time and your brilliance belongs to them. It's when somebody thinks that they get to rename you or overwrite you or uncenter your story. And this is what the ones who love you, the ones that are here and over there who are cheering for you, this is what they're praying about. And can I tell you this? This is not the first time we encounter a chaotic, oppressive, dehumanizing climate. This is not the first time God's people have had to live in a world that is ruled by fear and would seek to dominate you than love you, would rather dominate you than honor you, would rather dominate you than respect you, not because you earned it per se, but simply because you are a child of God. You don't need to jump hoops and perform for people for them to like you. When you show up, your glow is already on you, and they don't know how to honor that because who you are belongs to God. You have already been named by God. You've already been identified in your greatness. You already can declare that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And they don't want you to know that. They don't want you to remember that. They don't want you to affirm that because ultimately they want to dominate your greatness. You know the history. Come on, this is not new to you. Our ancestors were taken from their homelands to foreign shores called America, stripped of language and culture, told that they were less than human. Come on, this is not news to you. And long before that, in the days of young prophet named Jeremiah, yes, I'm getting to my text, God's people were dragged into a place called Babylon. An empire that said, we own you. We own your land, and we own your story. And in Jeremiah 29, prophet Jeremiah, still rooted in Jerusalem, pens a problematic letter of hope to the Israelites, the people people of Judah pushed into Babylonian bondage. Yes, go back home and study it if you will. Jeremiah 29 is a letter. That's what it is. It's a letter. You never knew that, did you? It's a letter from prophet Jeremiah. He's writing a letter from Jerusalem to the exiled Israelites that predominantly are part of the tribe of Judah, who are now in bondage in Babylon. Jeremiah does not write them something that is fairy tale-ish in this letter. He writes them a letter of hope, but it is a problematic letter of hope, and I'm about to tell you why. Because this particular letter, can you imagine? I've done it. I'm not ashamed to share it. I've written letters to prison. My brother's been incarcerated, and when you write somebody in prison, you don't want to tell them all the horrible things that's going on. You don't want to tell them how difficult it is out here. You want to give them that kind of false hope, you know, the fake hope, the kind that says everything's great, mama's great, daddy's great, the block is great, your girlfriend, she's still great, the cooking is still great. You just go ahead and focus, stay out of trouble so you can come home. Mama's praying you never go back in there. Am I the only one in here today? It's okay that I am. Yeah, if you've ever written to someone who's been in a kind of bondage, it would be thoughtful, ideal that you would logically write something that's great and powerful and hopeful, but full of some fantasy. But that's not what Jeremiah did. Jeremiah, the prophet, he wrote a letter of hope to the Israelites. And this particular letter of hope, it is not a letter that's full of fantasy versions of hope. He writes a letter full of hard truth, a deep hope, a hope that will need to go below the surface of their faith to find their hope, a hope that is rooted. And I want you to hear it like a letter from your grandmother before you leave home. The one that loves you, rooting for you, praying for you, calling the prayer line and making sure your name is added to it. I want you to imagine it's your grandmother as you go off to college, go to the next level of your education, all the things you'll do in the workplace, as if your grandmama is writing you a letter from afar, who has to live long enough, this grandmama, to know that in this world you will have troubles. That's kind of like what Jeremiah is doing. He's writing you a letter like maybe your grandmother or your grandfather would, because they've lived long enough to see some things. And Jeremiah was young, but he was a man who had a prophetic mantle on him. And so he engaged this letter with them as if he had a divine kind of encounter with God, which he did, because this is the same Jeremiah. He said that even when I don't want to tell it, my God, it's like fire shut up in my bones. This is that Jeremiah. And this letter, this problematic hope letter from the prophetic lips of Jeremiah, says to the exiles, if I may take the preaching privilege to put it in these particular words, I know you want this to be over quickly. If I was to give you a codified letter, what Jeremiah is writing, I know you want to wake up and find out Babylon was just a bad dream. But listen, babies, listen, this is going to last a little longer than you thought. That's a tough word. It's not an easy word to hear. So before we run, for he has plans for you, there's a context that comes in. These are people, before we hear this promise of a plan that's filled with hope in a future, they're in a context where they cannot even imagine the hope that they were hoping to imagine before they were even captive. And here Jeremiah gets a letter through. You know how hard it is to get a letter through? He gets the letter through, and this problematic letter, hope letter that we call it, this letter says, listen, it's going to take a little while. So while you're waiting, watch this. Watch this. I'm going to help your life. He says, build your house, plant your gardens. It's right in the scripture. Get married, have children, seek peace of the city where you have sinned. Go ahead and have a block party. Why don't you go ahead and start that book that you wanted to write? Go ahead and build out that business and start sewing clothes again. Go ahead and start corn rolling hair and make a little extra money on the side while you are in captivity. Jeremiah says in his letter of hope, build houses, plant gardens, get married, have children, seek the peace of the city where you have been sent. Whew. What a tough word. said, don't curl up and die in Babylon. Don't curl up and die in America. Don't spend more time complaining about what Pennsylvania Avenue is doing than you are focusing on your emerging business, reimagining how you can move in this season, what it looks like for you to retire for real, but in a way that you had imagined. What does it mean for you to go back to school and finally get the degree that you wanted? Don't curl up and die. Don't sit on the park bench complaining and moaning and groaning. Don't lose yourself trying to be Babylon either. He says, live, grow, organize, and watch this, flourish. Even in a place that does not love you. He says flourish. Even when it's difficult to breathe sometimes. He says flourish. Stop by this morning as your pastor, graduates, and all of those who identify as students of the house today. Do simply this as I read Jeremiah's words about what it means to still move when you feel the bondage, when you feel the captivity, when you feel the gas prices encroaching upon you, when the eggs are still high, when the rent is still due, when the tuition is still necessary. He says continue to flourish. And I said, wow, that's a hard word. I don't know, I'd come look for you if I ever got out of captivity. Write me some crazy note like that. You're going to tell me how to live in the hope? The hope doesn't look like me fighting and tearing stuff up, breaking windows, telling them to let me get out of here. The hope that you're sharing with us is to go ahead and plant a garden, build a house, hang out with my friends, marry somebody, find a boo, and let me see what my Boaz is doing. The brothers are looking for their rib. I mean, all these things are going on. That's what you want me to do in captivity? Well, that's what we've been doing because our ancestors taught us how to do that. Do what our ancestors did is what I'm trying to tell you. Make room for your own flourishing. That is the response from Jeremiah, and that is what I have to give you today. That in a place where it does not recognize you, makes you invisible, this is your time to know how to make space for yourself. Make room for your flourishing like we did as people enslaved. We made room for our joy. We made room for our midnight meetings. We made room about how we were going to get away and support Harriet on the run. We made room during Reconstruction era. We made room to have a Harlem Renaissance. We made room to build the Black Wall Street in the South. We made room in the Civil Rights Movement. We made room in Black Lives Matter. We made room. And so, what is Jeremiah really giving them? What is it? What Jeremiah is giving them in this letter clearly isn't giving easy hope. He didn't give you easy hope. When you read this, I'm not going to give you easy hope. That would be inauthentic, dishonest, that kind of spiritual malpractice of me here. He did not give them easy hope. He's not giving them a shortcut kind of hope. He is giving them a hope that can live and work and study and love and build houses and plant gardens in Babylon. That's a different kind of hope. That is really rooted hope. Hope with roots deep enough to hold you when the wind of empire continues to blow. Hope that doesn't run every time the climate changes. Hope that keeps you doing the work, studying and organizing and loving and resisting and laughing in their face, even when the odds are stacked up against you. This is the kind of hope that Jeremiah is telling us, and this is the kind of hope we need today. We don't need cute, bedazzled kind of hope. We don't need glittery, sparkly kind of hope. We got to have the kind of hope that declares, my hope is built on nothing less but Jesus' blood and his righteousness. And right in the middle of that hard grown folk letter, God says, for I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope. That's not a cute caption. That's a word to people under pressure, to people who feel stuck, to people who feel my life is in their hands. And God says, no, baby, don't give up on me, because I won't give up on you, because I'm able. You can't sing a song and not live the song. And that's why you see me jumping and shouting and turning, because the song that I hear is more than a song. It's a song that sings deep down in my soul. It causes me to think back over my life when I felt left out, alone, and discouraged. I remembered that I served a God that my mother told me about and my grandmother told me about, that this God can do the impossible, that he can take nothing and make something, that he will make a way out of no way, that he will be your lily in the valley, that he'll make sure that you're the lender and not the borrower, that he already prepared a table before you in the presence of your enemy. I'm talking about a God who is able. You worried if they have your life in their hands. He said, no, that's not possible, because I told you I have your life in my hands. And not only do I have your life in my hands, I got their lives in my hands too. Didn't you hear what David said? He said, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and even those that dwell within. So there is a way for us to hold this problematic letter of hope that Jeremiah is writing. You've heard the old saying, where there's a will, there's a way. But Pastor Gerald's interpretation, reiteration is, I want to push it a little this morning. I want to say that where there is a will rooted in hope, there absolutely is going to be a way. Not just a will where there's a way, but there's a will that holds on to rooted hope. There is a way. And when your will is rooted in God's plans and God's promises, when your will is rooted in God, who says, I know the plans I have for you, students, when your will is rooted in the God who is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that you can think or ask, then even Babylon has no way of holding you back. Even in this America, it has no way of holding you back. Even in this economy, this political chaos, this climate, there is a way that God has already made for you. So to every graduate who feels the weight of being the first to go to college, the first to major in science, the first to say, I need therapy. Come on, help me somebody. I got my clinicians here. They're backing me up. The first to come out and still walk in the church. The first to break a generational curse. Hear God, even in this climate, I have plans for you. Empire does not get the last word. Your future is not in empire's hands. And because God has plans for you, God is also forming you in the plans. That's why it can't be a popcorn plan. That's why it can't happen when you want it to happen. That's why you can't put it in the microwave or the air fryer for 15 minutes so it can come out done and crispy. Because God wants to press in you. God doesn't go to air fryers and microwaves. God go to olive branches and olive fields and make sure that the oil that's inside gets pressed out. Because it's not just the flesh on the olive that God needs. God needs the expressed oil that requires pressing. So I think about, in this formational way, what's happening while they're waiting. I think about a black woman named U.S. Representative Joyce Beatty from Ohio, representing District 2. This black woman who made her own flourishing garden of hope. She stood up flat-footed and refused to let a man with power, a man with ego. I wish I had somebody who saw the news. A man with I wish I had somebody who read a little, with a long history of arrogance, rewrite the story and put his name where it did not belong. Representative Beatty, she stood her ground. She called it out. She said in so many words, you don't get to put your name over this. You don't get to steal what other people built. But hear me, Joyce Beatty did not just become the bold in one day kind of sister. As a little black girl, I imagine, who grew up in the civil rights era, she had no idea exactly how her brilliance would benefit us. Her commitment to her studies, her faith, the experience of growing up in the civil rights era would one day converge in such a way that there would be this moment where she'd have to take this kind of stand. She was formed under pressure. She had been shut out, counted out, and had to normalize a no and not cry every time she got one. Long before she knew it, long before she stood on the floor of Congress, God was pressing her out. Graduates, I want to say as I prepare to close, you don't know yet what rooms God is going to send you into. You don't know what lies you will have to confront on your way there. You don't know what policies you will have to be challenged by, and the kind of policy that you might have to even impact change around. I want to share this with you because I find it apropos. I find it important. If you would, I want to just share, if you would, a little brief story. I bring you just a little closer to home, to me, to know me. My daughter, Mackenzie, who served as a policy advisor to Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman on the Hill in D.C., she took the vision of an economist, Janelle Jones. She was here last week. Y'all met her. The sister who said, if black women rise, the whole nation rise. Well, Mackenzie, my daughter, one of the principal policy architects, crafted a 200-page plus report for the Congressional Caucus on Black Women and Girls. She pulled together every sharp black woman mind she knew. She got black economists, black psychologists, black theologians to show Congress that this isn't just a framework that Jones was offering, it's actually our future. She said, because if you understand when you resource a black woman, you restore a whole community. And that's the way that she attempted to move that policy. And it's interesting because when she put that dossier together, and when she explained from an economic point of view, from top economists in the country, that if you center a black woman, every other thing will fall into place. Do you understand the fare on the floor? They're still fighting over whether or not they're going to take that framework and turn it into a policy. But that does not dissuade Mackenzie. Mackenzie's still going to shout what it means to carry a report that says there is a black woman's best that'll turn the economy upside down, and if we get it right, we'll help every single person. Because when you help a black mama, you help everybody. And not only that, what policies will have to change, also what histories you will have to protect. I want to share with you, pray you hold it inspirational as well. I got 2 baby girls. That was my oldest. My other daughter, Madison, a young black woman under the age of 30, just like many of you, who is also, like her sister Mackenzie, reshaping the narrative in a world that sometimes tries to render black women invisible. Madison, my daughter, she is a storyteller who refuses to let those stories go unheard. In the marketplace, Madison is considered a digital content strategist and a multimedia producer who specializes in telling the stories of those in the margins, particularly black women, through the media consulting company that she runs. Ooh, I wish I had some help right there. She's the voice behind the lens and the curator of narratives. She works with the Shawn Carter Foundation, the Tita Knowles Lawson Foundation, Black Women in Agriculture, and she's actually working now on a project with you, crafting social media content that turns the spotlight on those who are often overlooked. My daughters are not waiting for permission to be seen. I paid the price for that already. I already showed up as a parent, tired and trying to figure out how will I be a mama to these 2 black girls. I can't give them just the trauma that I have. I got to work through my trauma and give them a different lens. And so today, my daughters are not waiting for permission to be seen. Denise isn't waiting for permission to be seen. Skylar is not waiting for permission to be seen. Tiffany's not waiting for permission to be seen. Shadera is not waiting for permission to be seen. JJ's not waiting for permission. Ari is not waiting. These brothers, they are not waiting for permission to be seen, because we had to learn that the hard way. They are creating a legacy of visibility, becoming a living archive of resilience. But the storms you're facing now, the pressure, the isolation, the only one in the room moments that you will have, this is not to break you. Don't let it do it. Smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. God is training you for real water, for rough waters, for violent waves. And if Jerry reminds us that God has plans for you in Babylon, I want to take you over to Ephesians, where Paul reminds us over in 3 that God has power at work in you under the Roman Empire. Centuries after Jeremiah, another community is living under another empire. This time it's Rome. And Apostle Paul Apostle Paul prays for a young church trying to follow the way in a world that does not love them. He doesn't just pray for easy days. He prays that they would be strengthened with power in their inner being. That's different. That's different. Catch it. That Christ would dwell in their hearts through faith. That they would be rooted and grounded in love. That they would know that the love of Christ that surpasses all knowledge is the thing that would carry them. And then he says, now, unto him who is able to do exceedingly and abundantly and above all that you could think or ask, according to the power that works in you. Now that you understand what it means to be rooted in your faith, now that you understand where your hope must come from, now unto him God is preparing a way for you. You might not be able to see it. Yes, empire keeps distracting you and getting in your way. But in this season, the same people who are creating distractions will be the same people who have to roll out the red carpet for you. Some people who don't think you're worth much will be the same people who will have to use the inventions that you're about to birth. The same people who will scoff at you and not let you in are the same people you'll be counseling and set up intensive with, caring for their children, try to help them out, creating new pathways for neurodivergent communities. The same people. And in this season, graduates, as you step into this next level, I say more than congratulations. I want to say I celebrate you, yes, but I want you to know what I want you to do, that in this season where you feel bound, locked in, frustrated, overwhelmed, can't get the job that you want, strategize, discern, pray, do a different kind of math in this season. The world wants you to just count the GPA, just count the salary, just count the body type, just count the things that the influencers tell you to count for. But heaven does a different kind of math. Heaven says your worth was decided before you took your first breath. Heaven says God knows the plans God has for you. Heaven says there is a power working in you that is more than what's working on the side of you. That's the word you've heard before. Greater is he that's in me than he that is in the world. That's what Ephesians has stopped by to tell us, along with Jeremiah, that in this season when it feels like things are coming in on you, when the walls are caving in on you, it is your opportunity to stand up like Jeremiah, stand up like our sister Joyce Bader represented, stand up like Paul, stand up like your grandmama stood up, stand up like your uncle went through it, stand up, build houses, plant gardens, make great relationships, and in that, as God is pressing you, birthing new vision, new ideas, new dreams to make this landscape better again and again, don't give up on God. Because he won't give up on you. Can somebody put their hands together? Can you give God a praise offering in this place? Can you know that rooted hope is good hope? It's hard hope, but it's good hope. It is hope worth having. And that's how we get to this place